to celebrate the 250th birthday. But Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are set to be left out in the cold, lots of people are saying, and basically because they are no longer.
Okay. But Kinsey, it looks like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will be iced out. What more can you tell me?
Well, can you blame America for icing them out?
The announcement hit like a bombshell. Within hours, what should have been routine royal scheduling became a reputation-shattering media firestorm that tore through Montecito, leaving Harry and Meghan exposed to a brutal public reckoning.
Joining me now is celebrity and royal commentator Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, multiple sources have told Page Six that the royal family will travel to the US to celebrate.
By morning, every publication from tabloid gossip sites to prestigious newspapers delivered the same devastating message. The British royal family is returning to American soil, and the Sussexes aren't even footnotes in the story. They weren't just uninvited. They were completely erased from the narrative. The fallout spread rapidly beyond simple headlines.
Now, the royal family is gearing up for a trip to the US to celebrate America's 250th birthday next year, but there's of course speculation that there will be no reunion with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
The conversation shifted from shock to something far more damaging, a global spectacle exposing just how dramatically the couple's influence had collapsed. The question wasn't, why weren't they included? Instead, people asked, why would anyone expect them to be? That subtle but significant change in tone revealed everything. The couple who once commanded every magazine cover and breaking news alert had gradually faded into irrelevance, and now the entire world was acknowledging it without hesitation.
50th birthday. Prince William and Princess Kate will be in America in July, while King Charles and Queen Camilla.
Behind closed doors, diplomatic circles quietly praised the impeccable planning of the royal tours. American event organizers spoke confidentially about their desire for stability, dignity, and reliability, qualities the working royals embodied effortlessly. Even entertainment journalists, typically hungry for Sussex controversy and drama, seemed genuinely relieved that the media circus wouldn't be invited back to center stage. Meghan, who had built her entire second act around meticulously choreographed public appearances, suddenly found herself watching from the sidelines as the world's biggest stage was being constructed, without her name appearing anywhere on the invitation list.
In the cold, according to sources that told Page Six. So, Andrew.
What made the snub even more devastating was the calculated precision of the palace's approach. This wasn't passive avoidance or diplomatic deflection. This was strategic erasure, executed with surgical precision. The royal household didn't tiptoe around uncomfortable questions or issue carefully worded explanations. They simply moved forward with absolute confidence, acting as though Harry and Meghan were merely a failed PR experiment whose time had expired. In Hollywood's brutal ecosystem where relevance equals currency, nothing stings quite like being treated as if you never mattered at all.
Meghan have spent the last nearly 6 years disrespecting both parties involved here. At one point, they accused the royal family of racism, and Harry.
The British monarchy had successfully reclaimed America, and they achieved it without raising their voices or acknowledging the opposition. Their strategy was devastatingly simple: show up without the two people who once believed they controlled the entire narrative. Before anyone could fully process the royal tour snub, another uncomfortable truth was already emerging from beneath the surface. Harry and Meghan's media empire wasn't just struggling, it was collapsing in agonizing slow motion before the public's eyes. Netflix, which initially promoted them as prestigious new talent, had gone conspicuously silent.
In July, but no reunion, apparently.
Absolute 250th birthday bash for America.
After the initial documentary generated headlines, every subsequent project proposal seemed to sink before leaving the harbor. Industry executives stopped discussing potential and instead whispered privately about creative exhaustion and strategic regret. Spotify's exit proved even more humiliating. When a streaming giant cancels your contract, that's damaging enough. But when a senior executive publicly labels you grifters during a live broadcast, that's the kind of professional wound that never fully heals.
Once said on a phone call with who he thought was Greta Thunberg that President
Meghan's desperate rebranding attempt through American Riviera Orchard only amplified the embarrassment. The Duchess, who once envisioned herself orchestrating global philanthropic initiatives, was now marketing artisanal jam jars and monogrammed lifestyle products like a celebrity-endorsed Etsy boutique. The internet didn't just notice the disparity, it mercilessly mocked it. Then the palace revealed their American tour strategy, and the timing couldn't have been more catastrophically perfect.
President Trump had blood on his hands. Harry has become allegedly a pot-smoking, pay-for-play royal speaking at a Hilton in Toronto next week, and Meghan is a...
Just as Meghan attempted rebuilding her brand with homemade preserves, and Harry clung desperately to declining documentary concepts, the working royal stepped forward with a comprehensive plan that made the Montecito experiments appear pathetically small-scale by comparison.
To Windsor Castle, I was outside waving the Power Hour flag, as you know, and reporting on that. And during that visit, the President Trump invited King Charles and Camilla and
The contrast wasn't subtle. It was absolutely devastating. The world witnessed two completely divergent paths, one grounded in institutional legacy and public service, the other defined by sponsored gift baskets and quiet cancellations. And unfortunately for the Sussexes, reality cannot be edited or reframed in post-production.
a visit to celebrate the 250th anniversary. That is going to be a wonderful tour. Obviously hoping that the king is well enough, because he's obviously...
There was a defining moment when Harry and Meghan stood at the absolute center of the global stage, perfectly positioned to modernize the monarchy for a new generation. Meghan was cast as the American star who would seamlessly blend Hollywood sophistication with royal tradition.
Health scares and so on and so forth. But they have been invited for this state visit in April, and they're gearing up for this star-spangled trip to celebrate.
Harry represented the beloved prince known for authenticity and compassion. Together, they symbolized the ideal fusion of heritage and innovation. The palace had cleared the path, the world watched with anticipation, and the opportunity seemed limitless. But they wanted something different, something louder, more glamorous, and completely independent from institutional constraints. They walked away from the very machine that amplified their voices and convinced themselves they could construct something even more powerful on their own terms. They catastrophically underestimated the strength of the institution they abandoned, and wildly overestimated the public's appetite for a royal brand stripped of actual royal responsibilities. Now those roles they discarded so carelessly are flourishing in the hands of royals who understand that duty transcends drama.
Working royals, that's the main sort of reason they're not going to be there. So the Declaration of Independence, well, they declare themselves independent from the working royals, and as a result, it's going to...
The Commonwealth responsibilities they dismissed with such casual arrogance are being executed flawlessly by working royals who don't require camera crews to validate their service. The charitable initiatives they abandoned have continued succeeding without any Sussex involvement whatsoever. The most painful truth isn't that Harry and Meghan lost their influence, it's that the monarchy didn't lose anything at all. The institutional machine continued operating smoothly.
That she spoke to, they didn't name that celebrity. Do you remember that? And I do know I've been out to Montecito, and I do know that they bumped into John Travolta there before. Harry.
The vacant roles were filled immediately. The scheduled events proceeded without interruption, and the world adapted with surprising ease. The couple who believed themselves irreplaceable are now learning the harshest reality. No one is truly irreplaceable when the institution predates your entire family lineage by centuries. And that realization is beginning to inflict genuine pain. What the palace unveiled wasn't simply a travel schedule, it was a comprehensive strategic campaign. 2 separate royal tours, deliberately spaced months apart, specifically designed to saturate the American media landscape with royal presence from early spring through late summer. King Charles and Queen Camilla would handle the formal diplomatic responsibilities.
So when they've been at the Polo Lounge as well. So it's a great place. The Polo Lounge is a great celebrity hangout. We're talking about bravery. So there's another quote here from this article where she's talking about her children and jam. And she says,
the private conversations with political leaders, the cultural engagements that build enduring international relationships, the substantive work that rarely makes headlines, but creates lasting impact. Prince William and Princess Catherine would deliver the public glamour, the magnetic charisma, the contemporary image that resonates powerfully across global media platforms.
I'm so sorry. I mean, what does that mean? It goes completely over my head, and it just goes back to the narrative that she's talking she's talking nonsense. I mean, really, Jack?
This represents a masterclass in soft power diplomacy, executed with precision that leaves absolutely zero room for Montecito interference or competitive narratives. The strategic brilliance lies entirely in the calculated pacing. By the time the second tour launches, America will have spent months reconnecting emotionally with the monarchy in ways not experienced since Princess Diana's legendary visits.
She is with this project, aren't we?
Yeah, thanks, Matt, for that.
It's utter drivel. I completely agree. I just think that
The public will be systematically reminded of the stability, the historical continuity, and the enduring tradition the royal family represents, precisely the qualities that Harry and Meghan attempted to dismantle during their pursuit of independence. The optics are astonishingly pristine. Two royal couples united by duty and service, arriving on American soil projecting grace, confidence, and institutional strength. No tabloid scandals, no Netflix camera crews capturing content, no surprise media interviews designed to generate controversy, just the ancient institution executing what it does better than any competitor.
of the situation is that she's doing nothing brave in her life. I mean, for 5 years, or almost 6 years, she's been out of the royal family. She's been said that she was gagged while she was in there. Clearly she's not. I mean, she hasn't got any.
And throughout this royal renaissance, Harry and Meghan will be forced to watch helplessly as the country they believed they controlled becomes the stage for a monarchical revival that doesn't feature them in any capacity whatsoever. The palace didn't need to actively push them aside. They simply outgrew the noise and moved forward without looking back. Meghan always assumed America was fundamentally her territory, her audience, her cultural home field advantage, her guaranteed platform. She constructed her entire post-royal persona around this assumption.
There's nothing brave about what she's doing. And I think about some of the royal family members who, fought in wars or represented the country. That's bravery. Not posing for a photo shoot with Harper's Bazaar. It's ridiculous.
Well, there's two other things from there that we picked out.
She positioned herself as the relatable modern American Duchess, who effortlessly bridged two continents and rewrote centuries-old royal conventions. She envisioned red carpets extending from Hollywood studios to Washington power corridors, journalists competing for her exclusive commentary, and devoted fans amplifying her every statement. But the brutal reality has finally arrived, and it's a nightmare she cannot spin, rebrand, or narrative control her way out of. The American public has delivered its verdict, and the judgment is unambiguous and devastating.
His childlike wonder and playfulness.
I think he would hate that.
Do you think he would?
I think he would hate that, yes. I think he'd absolutely
Because a couple of
cringe.
days ago, she was showing, the amazing footage when
Catherine is the royal capturing hearts and dominating headlines. Not Meghan. Not even remotely close. Every public appearance, every diplomatic handshake, every perfectly timed smile from Catherine will monopolize media coverage cycles. Fashion editors will analyze her wardrobe choices in exhaustive detail. Political commentators will praise her diplomatic grace. Social media influencers will pivot their content strategy entirely toward her. Hollywood's elite power players will scramble desperately to secure invitations to events she attends. Major charities will compete aggressively for her public endorsement. Celebrity photographers will chase her presence while Meghan's Montecito mansion remains conspicuously empty of the glamour and influence she once claimed to command effortlessly.
Afghanistan, and the alarm goes, and he's the hero running off to jump in his helicopter, and then she's calling him childlike wonder and playfulness.
I think, if she did that while they were still living in the UK.
This isn't merely a blow to her carefully constructed ego. It's a comprehensive dismantling of the entire identity she worked so meticulously to build over years. Everything she portrayed during that explosive Oprah interview, every lucrative deal she negotiated with Netflix and Spotify, every subtle insinuation of representing the monarchy's modern future.
Portrayal of Meghan, definitely worth a read. Just before we move on from it, can you tell me about this? So she was makeup free, is that right? On the
All of it collapses entirely under the weight of a single royal tour announcement. America is actively choosing tradition, timeless elegance, and dedicated duty over manufactured spectacle and relentless self-promotion, leaving Meghan stranded in the irrelevance. A duchess without a stage to perform on, a celebrity without an engaged audience, and a carefully crafted narrative she can no longer control or dominate. If Meghan's nightmare is losing her grip on America, Harry's nightmare cuts even deeper. Its complete erasure from relevance. The country he fled from now enthusiastically welcomes the family he abandoned, showering them with attention, genuine admiration, and cultural relevance that he can no longer credibly claim for himself. His father will arrive commanding instant respect and diplomatic gravitas. His brother will arrive embodying charisma, institutional continuity, and the promise of the monarchy's future. The institution he once served with pride will demonstrably thrive without his participation, and he will be reduced to a powerless spectator.
Again, bravery. This is pretty ridiculous. I mean, this was a thing that in Hollywood probably 6 years ago was some sort of form of bravery, and you would, not have makeup on. I know Pamela.
No longer functioning as a working prince, no longer positioned anywhere near succession, and certainly no longer viewed as remotely indispensable to the royal mission. Harry, who spent years publicly lamenting his designated role as the spare, now confronts an even harsher reality that cuts to his core. He has become entirely unnecessary to the institution's success. Every diplomatic connection he carefully cultivated over decades, every meaningful charitable role he occupied with genuine passion, every reservoir of public goodwill he accumulated through years of service, all of it has been quietly absorbed and redistributed among the heirs and working royals who never abandoned their posts. William will seamlessly handle the responsibilities Harry left behind. The international networks Harry painstakingly built through years of dedicated effort will be efficiently utilized by others who remained committed. The hard-earned respect he once commanded through visible service and authentic presence, completely gone. By choosing to step away from duty, he hasn't merely abandoned responsibility and privilege. He has rendered himself functionally obsolete in the eyes of the very world he desperately sought to impress and influence.
I just don't think, Meghan pared back. We don't want the physical pared back of her. We would love a little bit more about what she's actually going through, a little bit more transparency. And I think that she's almost using that to deflect from the fact that she's not.
Hollywood. The glittering playground Meghan once confidently imagined she could dominate through sheer charisma and celebrity connections is decisively choosing sides, and it's emphatically not hers. When William and Catherine touch down on American soil, A-list celebrities will enthusiastically roll out the red carpet as though witnessing the coronation of a new cultural era. George Clooney, David Beckham, Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise, all will be actively jockeying for position, eager to publicly align themselves with authentic power, historical tradition, and institutional prestige rather than associating with pity, ongoing scandal, or fading relevance. Fashion icons, media moguls, and tech industry billionaires will compete aggressively for exclusive access to the working royals, collectively creating an overwhelming aura of prestige and cultural importance that Meghan once genuinely believed she could personally own and control. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan will find themselves relegated to the cultural periphery, fortunate if they can secure an invitation to a casual Malibu brunch or generate a fleeting entertainment headline that disappears within hours. Hollywood's power structure does not reward perpetual grievance, manufactured victimhood, or constant controversy. It respects demonstrable influence, institutional authority, and sustained cultural relevance. And in this high-stakes battle for cultural dominance and public attention, the Sussexes are already decisively losing. The lesson being taught is cruel, but absolutely unmistakable in its clarity. Genuine power naturally attracts sustained attention and loyalty, while perceived weakness actively repels both. Harry and Meghan fought desperately for freedom, utterly convinced that leaving the monarchy meant achieving liberation, creative autonomy, and building a powerful new empire entirely on their own terms and vision. But they're discovering that freedom without meaningful influence is essentially meaningless in practice. They possess the freedom to pursue anything they desire, yet nothing they actually produce generates significant resonance or lasting impact. The royal family continues dominating international events, controlling media narrative cycles, and generating global headlines, while the Sussexes release artisanal jam products, produce underperforming podcast episodes, and stage carefully orchestrated private interviews that barely register with their intended audiences, before fading into obscurity. Their hard-won independence has transformed into a gilded cage of irrelevance. They've lost the ability to dictate events, shape dominant narratives, or command the institutional loyalty they once naively assumed came naturally with their royal titles. Prestigious invitations mysteriously vanish. media platforms steadily shrink. Cultural influence evaporates rapidly. Freedom in this brutal context feels far less like the liberation they imagined, and much more like institutional exile, a silent but devastating punishment for abandoning the very system that would have guaranteed they remained perpetually relevant, culturally celebrated, and globally influential. And so the inevitable question looms ominously: what will Harry and Meghan actually do when the real working royals descend ceremoniously on America? Their personal history and behavioral patterns strongly suggest they will take some action to reclaim attention. But this time, there are absolutely no winning strategic plays available to them. Any desperate attempt to reclaim media attention will appear transparently desperate and pathetic. An emergency Oprah interview would be ignored. A performative charity stunt would be immediately overshadowed by working royal activities. A product launch would be mercilessly mocked across social media. Any attempt to rival the official royal events would prove utterly humiliating. Even showing up uninvited to royal events would only cement the dominant narrative of their complete irrelevance. The monarchy has successfully reclaimed the stage with authority and confidence. The global public is emotionally invested in the institution's enduring story, and Hollywood has firmly aligned itself with centuries of tradition rather than fleeting celebrity controversy. The Sussex brand, already reduced to a pale shadow of its once promising potential, now stands on the verge of being ground mercilessly into the cultural woodchipper of public opinion and institutional irrelevance. This isn't merely a diplomatic snub or a minor social slight. It represents a decisive, almost poetic obliteration of what some called the Montecito monarchy. When King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince William, and Princess Catherine arrive triumphantly on American soil, the message will be as crystal clear as it is devastatingly cutting. You demanded freedom and independence. Now experience it from a distance. Powerless, irrelevant, and watching helplessly while the world continues its magnificent forward progress without you.